Welcome to Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul, Revelation Edition.
A podcast sponsored by Piedmont Road Church of Christ and Ministry League.
We're here to discuss the book of Revelation, just as if we were asking Jesus himself. I am Paul Spurlin.
And I am Les Sandifer, and we hope you will enjoy our relaxed, Bible-based Revelation discussions.
Thanks for joining us as we think about and talk about all those things in Revelation that we can ask Jesus over a cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I have noticed that I do not talk like I introduce.
No. You don't talk like you sing.
I get hyped up.
There's some
Really?
words you sing in radio voice.
Really?
Yeah. Not the whole song,
That
but
sounds like it's a performance, and I don't mean for it to be. But
one of them is AIM.
AIM?
I'm trying to think of it in the context of the song.
I've got to find a song that's got the word AIM in it now.
What's the song you and I have talked about where it's the meter's kind of weird, so I don't lead it, but you love it
Yeah.
and you lead it.
Great is our God.
Yeah, maybe it's not that song.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's not in there. I'm trying.
Actually, I think it might be.
Can you sing
I
it?
think you're right.
Just sing it through in your head. See if that word's in there somewhere.
Hold on. Let me give you about 30 minutes, and I'll try to sing that in my head.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
30 minutes. That's too long.
Moving on.
2 minutes.
Thank you to our
We don't want dead air, that's for sure.
wonderful eldership here at Piedmont Road for
Oh, yeah.
allowing us to do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Lifeinchrist.com.
That's right. The website is there. All the resources that you need that we have there.
Yep.
I'd love for you to go and check it out and come visit us at 1630 Piedmont Road in Marietta, Georgia.
Or if you're from the North, Marietta.
I guess.
Yeah, we used to have a guy that was from up north, and he
Put an R on
worshipped here
everything?
with us. He was actually an elder at the Olive Street Church.
Okay.
Back in the day, Ronnie Lynch, and he had R's on a lot of city names that ended in a vowel.
That sounds Australian.
It was very weird. Yeah,
Australian people, they do the at the end.
Yeah, he wasn't Australian,
No, okay.
but it was a good call. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ministryleague.com
Yes, and all things
and the app.
on the social media, everywhere you go is at Ministry League. It is more than a songbook, folks. There's over 60 podcasts that you can listen to, and of course, we know that the two that we have that are on the top of your list, but all the other ones are good too. Listen to those and bring those in. They're on the app. But if you do go to our website and you have friends that are asking how to listen to our shows, they can go to the podcast page on Life in Christ, click the pictures, it takes you straight to us.
Yeah, and
That's good.
I was telling somebody recently about the Ministry League app. Just easy, go to
Oh, yeah.
networks, but it gives you a jumping off point for things that are beneficial across the spectrum. So
Right.
it's got some ladies stuff,
Yeah.
couple stuff.
Mm-hmm. As far as the shows go,
Yeah, on
Oh,
the
yeah.
podcast, and that's just good.
marriage and parenting and
Yeah,
all
it's
kinds
just
of
good
things.
Christian built.
Other Bible study stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so many different ways to look at life, and it's just really neat.
Yeah.
A new one that's out there. There's only been one show, and I hate to self-publish or self-promote.
Oh,
Is the Paul Spurlin Show?
who
Exactly. Yeah.
or Paul the Spurlin?
It's the Paul Spurlin Show
Oh.
because someone took Paul Spurlin, so I got to be the one
The-
and only. I wouldn't do that otherwise, but it was cheaper, so we went that route. But we talk about everything: ministry, church, family.
Did you say there's only one episode?
I've only done one episode.
So there's no binging.
I mean, another one is recorded because I did one with the Faulkner folks at
it doesn't-
Exposure, but it's not out yet.
It doesn't qualify for binging. You gotta
Oh,
have
no.
you gotta have like 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah, not there yet.
All right.
Brand new.
So folks, come back in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
He'll have some more.
ThePaulSpurlin.com is the website. And something else too. And I know this is
I
not
haven't
really
even
part
been a
of this.
guest on that show yet.
Nobody has. So it's okay.
Yeah, but we're sitting here.
We are sitting here in the room right now. You will be, but part of it too is I do some of my woodworking stuff.
Oh,
I share some of that. So I do a little bit of everything that
Okay.
Paul's into and things, experiences that I've had.
do you
and
relate
things.
those sorts of things to Bible topics, or is that
Oh, yeah.
simply just
We're handcrafted, man.
okay?
Yeah.
I didn't know if if you
Absolutely.
were kind of just intertwining a little
No.
personal
It's-
information about
everything
woodworking.
is all about God.
Okay.
Absolutely, everything is all about God. But it's the show about everything. And so it really says, welcome to Paul Spurlin Show. This is the show we talk about just about everything. And so, You have to call in, send an email, things like that.
We need to get video then.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it is video.
Oh, that one is.
That one is.
Okay, yeah.
That one is.
Oh, yeah, because you're doing it
I'm doing it.
on the
Well,
computer.
yeah. So that's easy.
That
But
helps.
but the conversation show, the 30 Minutes for God that we do, other show we do, please check it out. That is also one that will start doing video here very soon. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the shows, and this is the Revelation show. We are in chapter 18.
Chapter 18.
As we talk about the fall of Babylon.
The fall of Babylon, a.k.a., well, not even a.k.a., it's just symbolic of Rome.
Yeah.
It's not an also known as, it's symbology for.
It doesn't mean the city fell into the ground. Like an earthquake happened and it fell through. It's gone now.
Although that
We're talking about the evil.
would have been kind of interesting.
That would have been kind of neat. That people probably think that.
And what was the reference we made a couple weeks ago? The Old Testament reference to the people just getting sucked up by the earth.
Oh yeah, swallowed up by the by the ground.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Chapter 18, after this I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was made bright with his glory. I've got a side reference here to Ezekiel 43. I didn't go back and look at what those verses talk about, but it's the earth was made bright with his glory. It must be something tying to, well, it obviously ties into that, but.
I would think so.
Yeah, so.
You may share that for you?
What's that?
The Ezekiel 43 too?
Yeah, read it.
You
got it?
I do. And behold, the glory of God of Israel was coming from the east, and the sound of his coming was like a sound of many waters.
Oh.
And the earth shone with his glory.
Many waters, back to chapter 17 in Revelation.
Correct.
Pulling in some of that Old Testament
There we
imagery.
are. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what's meant to be. If you see the fall of an evil entity, you see the rise of the glory of God.
That's right.
It's just so neat. That's not even symbology. That's real.
That's just straight up.
Yeah, when evil dies, the glory of God arises, and the glory of God's always there. But it's just neat to see the power of Him.
So, spoiler alert: chapter 18 is 24 verses, but very, very clear in the glory that's coming from at least the perspective of the Christians in the first century, that God is saying that Rome is going to be destroyed, and we see some imagery here that is really kind of interesting. And I'm going to read it in just a second, verse 2, but going to stop and do a bit of our own kind of interlude. And this is from the Truth for Today commentary, but they're actually quoting a man named Merrill C. Tenney from his book called The Book of Revelation. This tie to Babylon, the fall of, and I'm just reading it. The fall of historical Babylon was one of the major disasters of antiquity. Through the successive conquests of the Persians, the Macedonians, and the Parthians, it had suffered a slow decline until in the 1st century AD it was scarcely more than a village. In spite of its strategic location on a fertile land, it quickly lost its prominence and became a heap of deserted ruins. And I read that just to remind us that this Babylon in Revelation is Rome. Mm-hmm. And just like the real Babylon and its decline, that's what we historically see from Rome. So this is not a proclamation that Rome will die in a day, so to speak, but it's a proclamation that its day is over. And you and I had talked about that before coming on the air. What is Rome, Italy today? I mean, it's known for its ruins. Yeah, as much as it's known for anything.
It's not known for its leadership to destroy people.
Exactly right.
You know, it's more of a
now, granted, it's been gone historically in terms of what happened here.
Oh yeah.
I think most commentators believe it was like 400-ish years that it took to really kind of self-implode completely, much like we see from the Babylon that's used symbolically to reference it.
400 years of Rome. Yeah, that's about right.
And he called out with a mighty voice, verse 2, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and despicable or detestable beast.
I got a cross-reference in Isaiah 13 that's kind of cool.
Oh, nice. For that verse?
Yes.
That section?
But wild animals will lie down there, and their houses will be full of howling creatures,
Ooh.
and their ostriches will dwell, and their wild
Ostriches?
goats, and their wild goats will dance.
Wow.
You're just talking about poetry in motion
Yes.
and creating a picture of the fall of the dwelling place of demons. It's kind of fun.
Yep. And the reason for all nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality. Again, a tie back to 17. We said 17 and 18 really go together.
Yeah.
And the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living. So we've got an angel. This is not the same angel from 17. So we've got another one that shows up on the scene and starts crying out with a mighty voice. All these things that are kind of repeating what one of the seven bowls, angels with seven bowls, said in chapter 17.
Right. And it kind of goes back to 18, Revelation 18:11, where it says, and the merchants of the earth weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore.
That's right. Cargo of
kinda
gold,
neat.
silver,
Yeah.
jewels, pearls. I mean,
Sorry.
it lists it all.
You're losing all your stuff.
And you're just,
Begin the fall
you're just not
Yeah.
the entity
that you once was.
that you once
That
was.
you once were.
That's
My bad.
right. I thought we were just giving it a good
My
old
country boy thing was
country
going,
boy thing, yeah.
It once was.
Well, and really, this is really just a shout of joy that this Roman Empire that has so persecuted and really continues to persecute in the moment,
Yeah.
the church is not going to win. Jesus is going to win. That's who's going to win, not the Roman Empire.
Oh.
I said this is really
All I heard you say was the church won't win. I'm like, the body of Christ.
sorry.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, in case those words actually came out of my mouth. Because, sometimes you go back and listen, you go,
Yeah.
oh, I did say that.
Yeah. No, you're good.
This is really about the angel proclaiming
Yes.
victory is through Jesus, and the Roman Empire that persecuted the church
Which angel?
is not going another.
Oh.
He wants me to say second.
In addition to the one that we mentioned in chapter 18. Okay, good.
And 17.
17.
Yeah,
17,
I think
18.
if you literally count the angels, so far in Revelation, we're up to like 48 or
bunch.
52 or something. Because there's a lot of angels that play into the scene. And myriads and myriads. I mean, in some respects, we see all sorts of people represented.
That's true. And what they're doing is they're inviting God's people to get away from the association of the wickedness.
That's right.
That's what's going on. And
that's a great point. In verse 4, I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you take part in her sins, lest you share in her plague. Stay pure from the world." I mean, it's a repeating thing we should be telling ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Don't be party to what the world is trying to get you to do.
Which is the same as today.
It's no different.
It's a message that's what really gets me and really, I don't know, really affects me in such a positive way is we spend so much time talking about how this message is for these 7 churches that we started with.
Right.
But it's still for us. And we're still learning stuff. And he's still teaching.
Yep.
And it's still Bible. And that's powerful. I love it.
Yeah, and this distinction that
It just
we've
sends a
repeated
message.
over and over and over again is that this was written specifically to that first century audience.
Yep.
So the application that people try to make that interpret into this some future event so they can come to some conclusion about the end of the world makes no sense whatsoever.
None.
But to walk away from this that we don't have a practical application in our life is also ridiculous.
Absolutely.
As much as the first century church was dealing with the Roman Empire, and we see what happened to the Roman Empire, we ultimately know that God is in control. And we see it in our lives. We see it in our government. We see it in governments around the world.
It's true.
Are we going to get a government in the United States of America that goes all the way back to being completely in line with God? That is highly unlikely because these are men.
Yeah.
And I mean mankind. These are people of the world. but we always want to also try to push ourselves to try to pray for our leaders and hope that they will make decisions that are more in accordance with God's word.
Right.
We don't have that now. We're not going to have it for the next 4 years that they're going to be aligned with God completely because we're in a cycle of a new leadership.
Right.
But hopefully we can see some positive changes that de-emphasize the sinful nature of man. We're still going to be confronted with, the world's insistence that we accept things like homosexuality as the norm.
Well, that's why it's so important for us. And you mentioned this. You alluded to the prayer aspect of it.
Yeah.
If we don't pray for our government officials and for our nation, who's gonna be sending a message to God? Are we leaving it to the sinful world that's leading that?
That's right.
I mean, I'm not saying that every person in Washington is not a member of the body of Christ. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's probably difficult to find a few.
It probably is.
And so our prayers matter.
Yep.
And so pray for the goodness, pray for good things. And so let's continue to keep that going.
Well, and there's a reality that we have to accept, and understanding this Rome being doomed. They were doomed because of their totality of ignorance towards God. King Cyrus of Persia found favor with God, not because Cyrus was right with God start to finish, but because he recognized that God was in control and recognized his authority. Where the Roman Empire has flipped their nose at him, if you can take that image where people just flick their nose and say, I'm ignoring all this.
Yeah, it's like forget you.
Cyrus at least got part of it, and through him there was God favored him.
Right.
The remnant that came back was under King Cyrus, or at least it started that way. So we look to Rome, and we look to, as we kind of think about our lives and our government, I think we look at that same concept. We want our government to be at least recognizing God's authority.
Right.
And trying to do things with that recognition in mind.
Absolutely.
That's what we hope for.
That's where we're at.
We're not going to get the perfect.
Nope.
But hopefully we can. And we always pray for them to do that, regardless of when it is in time. I made a comment to Paul before we came on air that if you go back and do a little history of the nation, our personal nation, that if you go back to the 1900s and forward, the subject matter that we talk about all the time, whatever that subject matter is today, existed then. You can look at headlines from the 1900s, and they were talking about some of the same exact headlines that we fight with today. So evil's always around us.
Well, that's also a lesson in history.
It really is.
That it does repeat itself.
It does repeat itself. That things that the Roman Empire was doing have repeated itself throughout time
the
since
world
then.
even today.
Yeah, and continues to and always will. So we're always fighting against Satan and what Satan wants to do through these governments and through all of that. But, then we get to the chapter 18 of our lives, if you will.
Yeah.
The bad beast is destroyed in the time.
And that last paragraph of chapter 18, I don't know if you're ready to get down to the end, but
we can bounce around all we want.
The pictures of destruction of the city of Rome is right there. It talks about the mighty angel, illustrates and the complete Rome's fall and how it would be in verse 21.
21 and following,
21 following.
Mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea.
Yep. A complete end of the three major aspects of the Roman life. You find that in 22 and 23.
And it brings up an image. We'll dig in a little bit what you're saying about the aspects of life. The millstone brings up an image to me.
Okay.
Immediately brings up an image to me of just, if you tie concrete shoes, we've seen it in the movies. If you tie concrete shoes around a human being, what's going to happen?
Drop to the bottom.
They're going to drop to the bottom. Now, the reality is, not to go too far off to the side, it won't stay down there, by the way. It's a myth that people watch too many movies. They think if you just put concrete shoes on the body and put it at the bottom of the lake, it'll stay at the bottom of the lake. Doesn't work that way, because the body will eventually rise back to the surface regardless of what you tied to it.
Eventually. That's
but
correct.
Guess what will happen if Babylon does that? A millstone was thrown around it. It was thrown into the sea. It drowns it, and the only thing that's left is the bloated carcass.
Mm-hmm.
The dead and bloating carcass comes back to the surface at some point, but it's
Well,
gone.
it's like a balloon.
It's like a balloon.
You're talking about it coming back to the top.
That's right.
That's exactly what that happens.
That's a great image. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what happens. Gases and all bring it back. But
Mm-hmm.
in the imagery that goes with Rome, it's just a dead,
Yeah.
carcassy,
It is.
rotting thing.
For sure.
Anyway, back to the subject matter of 21 through 23 and all aspects of what gets destroyed. You want to touch on that?
Well, we just talk about the things that are important to them. If you look at 22 and 23. It gets talking about the music. It's talking about the trumpeters. It's talking about the players. It's talking about craftsmen of any craft. Basically, what it's saying here is their amusement will be taken away. The music of their life will be taken away. Business is taken away.
Yep.
Home is taken away. I mean, everything that is value to them is gone because Rome is now gone. I mean,
Right.
not literally, but it is, spiritually speaking, it is dead. And
Yeah.
that brings about the fall. And so you're taking out all the things that they hold dear.
Yeah, and and some people will say, well, there's still musicians in Rome and there's still this, but
Oh, yeah.
that's not the point. The point is not literally that every single harpist and musician are gone.
Right.
It's exactly what Paul just said. It's these aspects of their life that make them, give them joy or make them great,
Mm-hmm.
are gone.
Right.
Rome won't be that power anymore ever,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't been. I mean, it
That's correct.
took a couple 100, 300, 400 years, whatever it was, but
And the city of Rome, the city that's called Rome, may stand in Italy. And it does.
right.
But it's certainly not the Rome of John's day.
Well, and maybe that's worth amplifying a little bit. What was the Rome of John's day at this time? It was a world. I mean, it was kind of the center of the world, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably not. Literally the world, but I mean, in terms of world power.
It was the center of the earth.
Yeah.
It was the capital of the world. I think we go back to the last verse of chapter 17 on that. That they thought a lot of themselves, and through their dictatorship, through their emperors, and the worship of the emperors and the worship of wickedness.
Mhm.
I mean, they thought they were the stuff.
It was.
God showed them very quickly that they are not. And eventually, evil will be overcome by good.
And we do see the height of their self-imposed importance, I guess is
Sure.
the way to put it. I think a little bit about two different world leaders that we've talked about, Hitler and Saddam Hussein, who easily and clearly kind of fell into the same category of what we saw from the emperors, right?
Right.
Is this idea of self-importance and elevating themselves above everybody else, and everybody should worship them like they're that kind of individual.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Well, I think this too also sends a message of a final judgment.
okay.
Because in your life today, this is Lesson Paul talking to you, the listener. In your life, there is something going on that kind of hits at you,
Yeah.
or gets at you, or ticks away at you each and every day.
Yeah.
Something's bugging you. Maybe it's something that you do. Maybe it's something that you're trying to not do anymore. Or maybe there's something that maybe at work you feel like you're being mistreated, or things just don't seem quite fair. I think this passage right here, as we look at verse 21 through verse 24, and you see the love, the desires, the things that really push and encourage Babylon, Rome,
Yeah.
to be so great in their minds, which is driven by wickedness, it does fall. What that tells us is that final judgment's not yet here. So trust me, good will conquer evil.
Right.
One day,
That's a great point.
the books will be balanced. One day, the odds will be evened, and everything is going to seem fair.
Yeah.
And God's going to make sure that happens. Now, that may not happen on this earth, but it's going to happen, and that's a promise that God makes. And I think that's a great way to understand what the fall of Babylon truly means. It means all those things that aren't fair, and all those why do bad things happen to good people? Why do good things happen to evil? Well, trust me, one day Babylon will have its fall.
Yep.
And God will have his victory. And I think that gives us a lot that we need to get through each and every day.
There's nothing more to say.
For Les Sandifer,
I just hit the music.
I'm Paul Sperlin. This has been Revelation Edition, Coffee Conversation. Thank you for being with us for this show. We look forward to being with you over that next cup of coffee.